I feel a little bit humbled and embarrassed really to stand here, especially in this room. I've got so many people and friends, but there are people I've obviously grown up with right along the way, and there are RBV winners here, all hands aplenty. So, and they're people that have really formulated the early parts of my life. So I can, first of all, I'd like to thank all those people that have been involved in culture that have formulated my life along the way, and those RBV winners that have really been at the heart of what's gone on. So for all the previous winners of RBVs, they are here, and Annie, last year's winner, thank you very much, and Mike Bolton, I think Bob is at the back there. So I feel a little bit of a fraud in all your companies, so I do appreciate and thank you very much for all your support you've all given along the way. I suppose my link with culture goes back to the very, very beginning. When you hear family stories and tales, you undoubtedly linked and tied to an island that you feel is yours, and that's certainly true in my family. With stories that you grow up with, a great grandfather who was the carpenter on the Vannnan, who didn't go that day for a fateful night, family that were last farmers on the Calf of Man, and stories that such as these that you're inevitably tied to what's gone on. And then to go through a schooling system as I did all those years ago, at the heart of when cultural revival was at its peak, and I was really fortunate to go through both Alden, Albert Road and Ramsey Grammar School at a time when there was a peak interest, but there were dedicated staff and teachers who were involved in that delivery of cultural identity, without it really being called a cultural identity. It was just a love that people had. So I can only pay tribute to Joy Brew at Alden Infants, Beryl Quine at Albert Road, and of course Mr. Crystal and the staff at Ramsey Grammar School at the time. But inevitably, it's my time at Albert Road that really formulated my interest and love of Manx music, dance and culture. I wanted to be a footballer, to be honest. And I did, and I was going to be a pretty poor one, so I'm glad that didn't happen. But it changed really, I think, with Mr. Bolton and all his work at Albert Road. But he wasn't the only RBV that came out of Albert Road, because Phil Kelly's on here as well. So there's now 3 winners from Albert Road that have taught at Albert Road on this trophy, and I feel quite honoured to be in their presence. So thank you very much for that. But yeah, it's Mr. Bolton's influence at Albert Road that has a lasting legacy that's immeasurable. And not only has he encouraged young people to be involved in all that, he got friends involved as well. And so I was really fortunate to be Albert Road at a time when Mr. Barrow and Miss Davies at the time it was, came, and they were dancing for Bocky and Fanny at the time, and Martin decided it was time we had a dance group at school. And from that moment on, I think our first performance was at the Villa Marina, and we danced for the Year of Sport and Culture. That set us off. We were just down the side, down the ramp on the left-hand side. I remember it well. And then, luckily enough, Mr. Fisher was invited to take part, and he taught us gore sticks, and that really was the catalyst of change. And our world opened up, not just mine, but I've got Adam and other people in here. That world opened up. Cognac was a time that we could come and enjoy days out of school, primarily, and then time that we could all be together. And it was a really exciting time, and meeting new people, and that Cognac experience was second to none, and I think it set us all at that time on a pathway to enjoy the culture. And so I can only thank all those people involved at the Cognac at the time, and feel terribly, terribly lucky that it was in Ramsey, that it was something that I could access and be there and be part of, even from a young age. I remember being sat outside the Prince of Wales, probably with my sister. There used to be a big stage. It felt big to me because I was little, but we were sat outside with the bonfire, and there was an Irish group, I can't remember, and Ross Celtic, I think, with a big, tall gentleman he felt like at the time, with the big Cornish flares. And I can remember being mesmerised, or I had nowhere else to go because Mum and Dad were inside the Prince of Wales, and I was told to stay put. But Cognac was terribly important, and I can only thank those people involved. And there's two people here actually that I should thank, David Collister and both David Fisher. I shouldn't say this as a school teacher, but we used to not go to school Cruinet week. We used to be hiding and hidden, and there would be phone calls aplenty to parents to say, Juan's not in school, where is he? And I think in the end, Mum and Dad just said, well, you better ask somebody at Cruinet because he's not at home and he's not at school. So I know David and David both did a great job in persuading the head teachers at the time that this was far more educationally important, and that's where I should be. And that's where he was. And it wasn't just me, there was a group of us. And so that putting your neck on a line to make sure that young people did really have that opportunity to take part in events was second to none. And it certainly has changed my life and my outlook on life and the people I met because of Cruinet. I've never made any bones about it, and Cruinet has been one of the big important parts of my life, and the people involved in Cruinet certainly at those times have been at the forefront. So I can only thank those two gentlemen for taking us out on a limb and making sure that we were there. And because of that, friendships grow, and Brisha touched on the importance of friendship. I would rather be stood here thanking everybody that involved, because it is a team effort, and it has been everybody that really has made this all possible. And I am quite humbled to be amongst those names that are on that trophy there. But it was friendships, and of course my big friendship came with Andrew, and Andrew Hannon and I became inseparable through the Cruinet and through latter years, through weekends and holidays. And I know together we made things happen, and we made that friendship connections that were really important, and they're still really important to me. And without his support and his real drive behind the scenes, I'm not a musician, I'm a dancer, and Andrew could say, you can't do that, and we'll do this, and we will make friends along here, and we will go. So there are lots of special stories, but I think the one that I can take away from Andrew is the trip to Scotland. It's not just on Ireland that all this influence has happened with Cruinet and all the people we've met, but the people we met at Cruinet then became lifelong friends, and we were really fortunate that we became very friendly with James Alexander, MBE as he was, the late James Alexander in Scotland. And our trip to Scotland started a movement in Scotland that is now huge. We went to Scotland to say it was a great thing to do. We were asked to go and really tell Spayfest they were just starting with this idea that they thought would be a great idea. And we went up and we talked to Barclays Bank and Baxter's Soup and Glenfiddich and all the big bosses and persuaded them to give them money. And luckily enough, they did, and that festival now has grown, and it's something huge and big. But the friendship with James and the people we met through Fochabers has never dwindled. And I can only thank Andrew for being there with me on the journey. And he is there on the journey, and he's part of this success. He really is. And I should really say that Nefani was the second most important turning part of my life. I was really lucky with the dance in Albert Road, and then there had been a group breakaway under Sue and Dave Collin, McTulloch Vannnan crew, and they became the second part of my extended family during those early years of the 80s. They were there weekends. Sue became a surrogate auntie who would tell me off for not dancing properly, or you are doing this dance or you're not doing that. And it really became second family, and I met new people who went along the way, and I can only thank those people for being supportive. But not only that, they've been my friends right the way through, and they are still highly important people in my life, but to Manx culture in particular, and through all the work they do in the Nefani and teaching young people, they are absolutely second to none. And so I'd like David and Sue and all the Nefani people, past and present members, because there's quite a few here, you don't know how really special you've been to make sure all that has happened. So a huge round of applause for all those people. It's really important. Shennaghys Jiu tells its own story, and we've been delighted to do that with a group of people along the way. It's been a really successful period of 25 years. We never thought at the beginning that this is where we'd end up. I should say that although we are coming to our final festival this year, it's not the final ideas that we have. So although there's great sadness amongst lots of young people and ourselves in particular, that it's having a little bit of a hiatus and a rethink and a re-change of direction what we need to do. But there are a great group of people. They are hugely influential for the Isle of Man and to culture over the last 25 years. They've done everything behind the scenes, willingly, on the most part, every weekend, and to turn up to meetings right the way through the year and to a festival that now is quite a financial responsibility. I can only thank all those people, past and present, that have been involved in Shennaghys Jiu. You really are the most wonderful people that have made that all happen, and without any of you, that wouldn't happen. But in one person in particular, I would like him to come out because he's never able to come out because he always hides downstairs. I'd like Adam to come here, please, if possible. This gentleman here has been my rock and stay for the last 20 years with Shennaghys Jiu. He is the person that holds me together, says yes and no. And as I said, it's a team effort, and I prefer it to be a team. And this gentleman here is second to none to the things that he's done for the Shennaghys Jiu and to keep me sane and to make sure that money has been raised. And he deserves every bit of credit for being here. And he's been my friend from infant school all the way through, and he still is my friend. Before him, and I think he's my friend still tonight. But he won't thank me for this. But I am absolutely indebted to Adam for everything that he has provided and done and kept me sane and make sure it happens. So this gentleman here needs a round of applause. I'm sure there's lots more that I could say, but I probably shouldn't. But except to thank, obviously, my mum and dad who supported me right the way through, and I know they'd be very proud to see this tonight. But also my sister and family, but in particular my wife and children who really are there for me, and Nicola in particular, who I'm going out tonight. I'm at another meeting. I've got this to do, and in fact, the last week she's been tearing old photographs out of our albums to digitise without any hassle, without any grumping, without any sort of fuss. And so I can only think, I know how difficult it is to be in a partnership with me when Shennaghys Jiu is on, when they're and Faney trips away, when there's trips to Lorient and places like that. It's no easy job, and I do fully appreciate all the support that you've given me and there for me. So without all your support, I really can't thank you enough. So there are loads of people I need to thank. My colleagues at work, obviously, they are here and they hold me together at work and do things. But it really is a team effort. And I know I am very, very grateful. Don't think I am not grateful, because I am. And I feel very humbled to be amongst these names and people that I've grown up with right the way along the line. There's names on this trophy that really, if you grew up in Ramsey families, you would know that they were on the doorstep or they were around first footing. And there are lots of names here that really were part of my childhood and growing up. And I feel honoured and blessed to be part of that legacy that all those people before me have definitely provided for Manx culture. I am one small piece, but I am grateful for the support and the nomination, and thank you to the committee and the people involved behind the scenes. It has been a great honour, and it will be one of the great honours of my life. So, myself, got a mai moio.